Welcome to Beverly Beach Camptown RV Resort. Celebrating 35 years, single-family owned. They're one of the few resorts in the U.S. situated directly on the ocean with 1,500 linear feet of Atlantic Ocean beachfront for your enjoyment, with attractions like Daytona Beach 30 miles to the south and St. Augustine, the nation's oldest city 32 miles to the north. There are activities to keep everyone busy. They're truly a year-round premier camping destination. So what are you waiting for? Check them out at BeverlyBeachCamptown.com.
Want to take your camping to the next level? Then why not try glamping? Welcome to RV Glamping Adventures, where you can have a little glamour with your travel adventures. Please join your hosts, Neil and Kathy, as they share RV glamping information, RV park reviews, product recommendations, and so much more. Here's Neil and Kathy.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of RV Glamping Adventures with Neil and Kathy. I'm Neil.
And I'm Kathy. So last show we talked about at length.
At length. It was one of our longest shows.
We really tried to fit 2 weeks into one show.
Yes.
But we talked about Disney and beyond. And it was all about our trip down to Florida and all the adventures we had and the fun stuff that we did and the pit stops along the way and all the fun stuff in hopes of inspiring you to get out there and find your own adventures. This week we were going to talk about sort of part 2 of last podcast conversation, and we wanted to continue on with the rest of the trip. I mean, we still had more.
Yeah, there was, believe it or not.
That was the cool thing about we did all this stuff, and we're sitting there, and usually it's like we're leaving Disney going, darn it, it's over. Oh, no. And, we have more trips coming this year, but that was like our really big one, and, it was a pretty big adventure for us.
And typically we rush home.
Yeah.
So we're like, we leave Disney, and then we make almost like a mad dash home, and we've been known to come home within one day.
And it takes about 20 hours for us to get home from door to door, from Disney to home, and it's weird coming back. On the way down, your adrenaline's going. We knock out about 16 hours of driving in the first day, and then we stop and we sleep and we get up and we might go to another park first for a couple days, or we'll head to Disney from there or whatever. But something about coming home, it's just weird going the other way.
Yeah.
It's hard to find. We've had a hard time. We've been doing this for years. We've had a hard time finding a spot to stop.
Right.
Because I don't know where we are. Usually somewhere around West Virginia, Pennsylvania border, and I don't know where. There's just not a lot of places for us on our journey to stop. We've looked. We've tried. And we just haven't been fortunate to find that spot to stop and just sleep. Well, it's sort of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and the other part of it, too, is for us to go stay someplace that we maybe can go do something depending on what's going on. We try to do it so we don't have, the 14 hours the next day to get home, because that drags.
Yeah, we're more of the people who want to do the bigger drive the first day, second day, easy drive, get to the location, home, whatever it might be. But so this time, we did that trip in March, because we were down there in Florida to visit our son again, and we ended up, the same old thing happens all the time, and honestly guys, it's not safe, and we're getting older, and it's getting harder for us to do.
I felt like I was moving for 2 days.
Well, let me explain though. What happened was what we tend to do is we're going to stop and sleep, and then I start off the drive, Neil will drive the second time, I'll do the third round, and then he'll go. And I knew, because I think I turned over the wheel coming back in March around 11 o'clock at night, and I looked at him and I'm like, we were at that point 3 or 4 hours from home or something like that. And I looked at him, I'm like, I know you're driving all the way home. And that's like that witching hour. It's not safe. And by gosh, didn't I fell asleep in the back, and of course I woke up the next morning and we were in the driveway. And you did exactly. And I know you did it safely. You'd had a good nap before.
Absolutely. Yep.
But it's not when I want to be driving on the road. My mom always taught me bad things happen after midnight on the road, Kathy. And so that always resonates in my brain. So I really wanted to, on this trip, we were wrecked too. After March, you drove all night, and really I didn't sleep that great. And we were wrecked for days. It took, it used to be a time, Neil, when you and I could party all night long and
those days,
get up. They are gone.
They're gone. They're totally gone.
So we basically were wrecked.
Well,
so
and I also took a 5-hour energy.
yeah.
And that actually helps. It takes the edge off of anything that you're having. I can see why they sell them in truck stops in such large quantities.
Right, but then you didn't get home till 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then you woke up at 7, and that's all you slept that day.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
No, and I felt
I
like
mean,
I
if
was
you
moving.
check your new watch, that is not enough
No.
on your Fitbit, whatever you
No,
have.
it's way less than the 7 hours that
You
my
need.
goal is. You know.
So we said on this trip, we had time. We are not, and really going forward, we want that to stop because
And that will
it's
happen.
too tempting. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but when we're almost home and you know you're only 3-4 more hours away, it's just too tempting just to say, screw
I'll
it,
just do
I'm
it.
going
I'm
home.
doing it, you know.
And so we said this trip, we're going to do it different. And we've done trips like this before. There was one time we were up in eastern Canada, and we went up through Maine, and we went to Prince Edward Island, and we went to Quebec, and then came home. And we said, let's do something like that concept again. When it was, we did Beverly Beach on this one, we did Disney and beyond. Where could we go on the way home that will break that trip up for us? That, well, at first we're trying to look somewhere new. It's just that it's a 20-hour drive.
Yeah.
So where do you break that up that when it does come time to go home, you're not still driving 10 more hours?
Right.
So we looked all up and down the map.
It was hard to
and
find places.
It really was. That would be somewhere we'd be. I mean, there's lots of places.
Oh,
but
yeah.
that wouldn't be too, we talked about Gettysburg, we talked about Hershey, but some of them, they were just too far, and you can't, to me, I don't want to go driving in,
No.
11, 12 o'clock at night at some campground and disturb. You want to be a good
You're trying
camping
to be,
neighbor.
You pull in, because we've had this happen to us before, where somebody comes in next to you, and sometimes they can do
And
it
it
super
happens.
stealth
It
and put
happens.
their levelers in, open up, and they're done.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're loud, and we just didn't want to be.
We didn't want to be that person.
No, you did not.
If we did, I wanted to be stealth-like. So we really looked at the clock and tried to figure out what we could do. And what we settled on, and I don't even want to use the word settled, but
What we came up with.
What we came up with was, we've done this trip a couple times before, was going back to Washington, D.C. That's just a really great place to go.
Yeah,
and
it's a great place.
with politics being what it is this year, it's an election year, it's kind of an exciting time to be in D.C.
Yeah.
I think it's always an exciting time to be in D.C.
Beautiful city.
Just walking around, there's so much history.
Yeah.
There's so much to do there. And what I love about it, because I'm the glamping, I like to budget, and glamp on a budget. Once you get into the city, everything pretty much is free.
Yeah. All the
As far as the
museums and all
museum, the
yeah.
Smithsonian's, there's some that aren't. You can look at the Spy Museum or the museum.
Yeah, the museum.
But the other ones that are actually officially Smithsonian's, how can you pass up free entertainment like
Yeah.
that and free education?
Yep.
And they're done so well, and there's so many. We've done a lot of them, and there's some we haven't done.
And you have to say this trip was very educational.
It was
all around.
very educational. We
Yeah.
talked in the last podcast about it being Disney and beyond, and that meant going, to other places, having the car, but it was also for us about, expanding our horizons
Yeah.
and learning a lot about each other and ourselves. So what better place to do that in Washington, D.C.? So I think our drive, once we left, we were sad to leave Florida.
Oh, it was very.
It's
I
still
think for
sad.
the first 3-4 hours, no one talked.
Yeah.
Some of it's
I
because
think you
we're
tried
not going
to-
to see our son for a couple
Yeah.
months. That's a hard one.
You did try to have a conversation with me in the car, and I just was not.
No, she wasn't
I
there.
need to mourn that.
She wasn't there.
Because it's something, I'm the planner and I look
Yeah.
forward to it. And of course, saying goodbye to our oldest son. We're not going to see him till Thanksgiving. So, but that's what it is right now. And you have to just sort of
It's life.
suck it up.
And he's happy.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Right?
So we left almost, and this was our probably scariest situation we had as we were leaving out through Jacksonville. Neil was
Oh,
driving.
geez, yeah.
And I looked up, and some truck had missed. It was an 18-wheeler missed. Well, you tell it. It happened to
So,
you.
yeah, I'm driving.
Well, it happened to all of us, but you were the one driving.
I'm driving, and I like to give a little bit of space around me. I think is a good. I just try to drive safely and watch my space and everything. And I saw this truck coming up on my left-hand side, and I thought nothing of it. It looked like he was just going to pass me. And for whatever reason, I noticed the truck started coming closer and closer to us. So I slowed down, and I had to clear in the right, so I pulled over to the right just enough. And wouldn't you know it, the guy from the far left lane zooms in front of us. Now, he's not pulling anything but a huge trailer that was empty, and he basically, I don't know how, other than the grace of angels and
somebody intervened.
Somebody was watching us.
I just happened to look up, and honestly, the gall of this fellow.
Oh, it was crazy.
That why he didn't just slow down and go behind us and take his exit, but to literally cut us off.
Yeah.
I mean, it was millimeters.
And
I just happened to look up, and I was shaking. So I know you saw it coming and everything.
I didn't really see it coming.
It just, I'm like, who does that?
And I think truck drivers, it's a hard job.
Yeah.
And I give them a ton of respect, and we've been out there on long trips, and you see tons of truck drivers, and they are very good drivers and very conscious.
I even feel like they look out for us.
I think so too.
I feel like they're they'll kind of pack us in at times when there's a cop car coming out that we're speeding or anything.
Yeah.
But you know how you sort of travel alongside them? And I'll feel like I'm going alongside a couple of them every now and then, and we just kind of look, and they'll flash you, and you can turn over or move a lane over. And that. Yeah, I find them, for the most part, as friendly as the RV drivers.
And incredibly safe. This guy was nuts. I don't think I even beeped the horn.
Because it all happened too fast.
It was too fast. People next to me beeped the horn at the guy.
Yeah.
And then I was just in shock for the
we were just like, oh my.
So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you saw a RV pulling a white Kia Soul getting
and you cut us off
by a red truck with a black trailer, looked like a car carrier, thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
that was
thanks
nuts.
A lot.
That was honestly, and we drive a lot when we go on trips. We go far, and that's the first time that's happened. Thank God.
Listen, all we can say is thank goodness nothing happened.
Yes.
And if that's the worst thing that ever happened to us on the road, I can handle that.
Yeah.
So other than that, though, and I would say the other much less important mishap that happened was the only thing, honestly, that broke down the RV once we got home yesterday. We cleared it out and everything. We took the RV to the dealership. Because typically there's something we have to do. It's a house on wheels.
Yes.
And what happened on this trip, and it started somewhere around DC's part of the leg of the journey, is we have, what is it, what's the brand of the?
We have a Thetford high-profile side flush toilet.
Yeah, so we're talking toilets here. I think we brought it up in the last podcast that we had a little toilet predicament. And what happened was it's not like one of those ones that flush.
It's a ceramic toilet.
It's ceramic. It's a nice toilet, as far as toilets go, whatever. But the way the flusher works, it's sort of on the side, not like in the front that you see on some. And well, it's been working for 3 years, and every time we went, pretty much about every third or fourth flush, you go to flush it, and the whole arm of the flusher would just fall off. We tried everything to fix it. I mean, it was such a pain. And, the backup thing is, okay, go use the facilities that...
And the boys did.
And the boys did, but, in the middle of the night, it's, so we managed. There were levers you could use. Your face was basically almost in the toilet. It wasn't the best. It was not the most glamorous of the glamping situations.
It's a very weird situation for us because,
normally... For me, that was roughing it, okay? That was roughing it.
We normally it says the handle flush, you flush the toilet, it's no big deal. But this one, it's got you push down and it controls a valve in the back for the water and
it's
a
like
valve
a counter
in the front.
Pivot.
It counter pivots in the middle.
So as it opens up, and it also flushes.
Yes.
So it counter pivots, so you can't glue it on. I don't know how if
it
it's
needs to be
stripped
free moving. We're going to find out, but it's at the dealership
It's
now.
at the dealership now because we are not going to Maine, New York City without a flushing toilet.
I think Olivia was a little traumatized.
She was quite. She's like,
Dad,
it is time to go home.
You've got to flush the toilet for me.
Well, she didn't know. I mean, there's nothing scarier than if the water was filling up, the counterpart wasn't opening up.
Right,
she wasn't really sure how to.
No.
And then you've got an overflow. She didn't want that.
No,
nobody wanted that situation.
I appreciate it. I think one time I didn't tell you, she woke me up.
Did she?
Yeah, but that's okay. I was fine with it. It was like, okay.
She's 13.
Yeah.
That's about as roughing it as I even want to get.
Yeah, that was bad.
So we're getting that fixed right now. But that was honestly, out of a 2.5-week trip with a house on wheels, that is it that we had to deal with.
And when you talk to people, because we did go in...
so I'm grateful.
In the store that we were at to look for a replacement part.
Oh, we have to mention, once we got to sorry, go ahead, because I want to talk about, we always talk about the stores that we like. We talked about at Beverly Beach.
Oh, this one was a very good one too.
The one we went to Cherry Hill Park.
We went
gotta
to Cherry
get
Hill
that.
Park, yeah. But when we were talking to the lady in basically the parts department, this place was like, their store was totally amazing. It had everything you needed. And she said, and I've heard this before, we've said this often, it's a house on wheels. It's big. They're going to have things happen, and this is what's happened every time.
So when I always think before every trip, what's going to happen on this one? I hope it's not too bad. So when we came home, and the fact that we were, really blessed in a situation, we could have been in a bad accident,
Yeah.
and that the toilet thing broke.
It was a good trip.
It was a good trip.
It was a good trip. Success. It was success.
So other than Jacksonville's near sideswipe, the rest of the journey was pretty.
great.
It's uneventful.
It's pretty
I mean,
uneventful.
for me, it's about the journey as well. And I love seeing. I took pictures of just the countryside and
Beautiful
gosh, we live
country.
in such a beautiful country.
Yes, we
You from New York. I mean, everywhere we've gone, there's just a beautiful
Georgia,
view.
North Carolina, Virginia.
You can
Pennsylvania,
drive. You can
there's
fly
Maryland.
all you want. There was one part, it was in the middle of a storm, there's lightning, I think we were coming down to Florida, and I just started filming in the back, just along, we were somewhere around West Virginia,
West
and
Virginia
it
had
was...
a bad storm.
They had a bad storm. Oh, that was when they had some flooding
Yeah, they
and
had
all
some
that,
flooding,
too.
a flash flood.
We
warning.
actually drove through that, having no idea it was as bad affecting these people as it was. But there was, it's so mountainous, and so there were these areas of valley that there was just, it was raining lightly at the time, but there was fog coming up, and it was just beautiful.
It was beautiful.
And I recorded that, and I put it out there, and I said something on Facebook about, you can take the planes all you want, but you miss all this. And I posted that, and it got so many likes and views because, you'd miss that.
Yeah.
You got to just stop and smell the roses, so to speak, and just
That's
look
what I
around.
love about the way we travel.
Me too.
Absolutely.
So, I just enjoy that part of it. I love driving the RV. I love being the passenger in the RV. So we made it up. Let's see. We left by about 7:30 in the morning
Yeah. We got
out
on
of
the
Florida,
road.
and we got to D.C. We actually drove through the city, through D.C. at night because I really wanted the family to see it all.
I'll tell you
lit
what.
up.
I was a bit of a freak during that time.
Yes.
I will totally
You were
admit.
quite reactive.
I
we'll
was
say.
reactive. But DC traffic is legendary.
Yeah, but it was
in a lot of
it
ways.
was like
and it was after the fact.
it was after the fact, and maybe you were just tired when you
I was
had to get there.
tired, and it was trying to.
But
fit
you know what?
space,
Was it
and
worth? Was it worth going and driving through,
Totally.
avoiding the outer loop, and just
Totally.
going through and seeing what you saw?
So when we
Were you
we
were you
went
glad
through-
you saw what you saw?
I was totally glad we went through. We were
Okay.
able to see the Capitol lit up, the monument.
I was
lit
right.
Up.
That's
She
all. I
was
just wanna
100%
hear
Right.
I
I
was
was a
right.
freak, but you did great.
It was a beautiful,
It was
like
beautiful.
that. People were the whole family. Everybody was just like looking out the window.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh!
this is
Because
amazing.
we've been to DC. We've been there during the day, and then we go back to the RV at night, and you miss DC at night is a whole other
it's beautiful.
animal. It's so
beautiful.
beautiful and well lit, and just it's gorgeous. So I was glad to sort of say, look at this, and coming up from the way we were coming up, and it just was beautiful. And we got to the park about
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, and
10
we even checked with our neighbors the next morning. We were stealthful.
We did a good job.
We were quiet,
She did a great job.
and we just went right to bed.
Yep.
But I was so excited by this decision to usually we'd be like, oh my gosh, okay, we're
Yeah.
6 more hours to go. And we still had more vacation to go.
It was
so,
great, and we had a great time.
and you know what? The kids that we didn't have Ian with us, but the other 3 were so excited to be back in D.C. We hadn't been there in, 3 years or 4
least 3
years,
years,
maybe
maybe
4. And again, for them, each time as they get older, it's a different experience. Olivia is 13 now, so I don't know. She was maybe 9 or 10 when we were there last time.
Yeah, and her,
So how
her
could
view
you
of
appreciate?
the world has changed so much.
Now she has one.
Yeah,
and same
exactly.
with the other guys. They have a more developed sense of self in the world, and so to go back there and be a part of that's where a lot of the action is.
Well, and Mitchell wants to be a history teacher, so
yeah,
that was right up his alley.
Yeah. So we got up the next morning, and what we've learned in the past in staying, we went and stayed at Cherry Hill Park. Highly recommend
Great
it.
place.
College Park, Maryland. Check it out. They're the closest
Yes.
park to getting into DC. And what's nice is you can just, there in the past, we've depended on public transportation. You certainly do not want to drive around D.C.
No, absolutely not.
So it's...
For a couple of reasons we heard.
Yeah, well, yeah, we learned that in the city. You don't, there's cameras that you just get tickets, and they're like $100 to $200, depending what part of the town.
And it
like,
depends,
if you don't know what you're doing there, do not drive.
We were told, this is what we were told, if you're like 3 to 5 miles over the speed limit,
They
you can
catch
get a
you.
ticket, and you won't know it. You'll just get it mailed to your house.
Yeah, and if you're like in Georgetown, it's $200.
Yeah.
So that's enough to keep me off the streets. But what's really neat, this truly is an RV resort. I mean, they've got a
it's
couple
beautiful.
pools, they've got a splash pool, they've got a fishing pond, you can tent, you can cabin, you can RV. It's got an amazing restaurant there. There's game rooms, there's mini putting. It's to me the quintessential RV resort.
And they're people. From when you
Everybody's
check in
so
to
nice.
when you go to the store to talk
Yeah,
to
as
look
we
for
were
a
saying
toilet cart.
earlier, as much
super
as we
nice.
love, I mean, it is a fully stocked RV
Fully
store
stocked.
plus a full grocery. There's a good grocery area. There's a
Yeah.
grocery store down the street as well, but they've got enough groceries there, better than some, I would say, and then lots of touristy fun things to buy. And then you can also do a lot of sightseeing tours through there.
And also, the bus comes through the park.
Right, so that's the great thing. Before we got the tow dolly to bring the car, we could take public transportation. It actually came right into the park, picked you up, and you would take the bus to the metro station, either Greenbelt or College Park. And the metro, guys, it's so easy to get around DC.
such a nice
so
thing.
well
Yeah.
run and put together. Like, it's clean, and it's, I just find it, like, when I go to New York, I look at the map and go, duh. But I know my way around DC. And I think it's because the metro lines are just planned out. They're really easy to follow.
Well, and there's something about the map. Number one, it's planned out so much easier.
Yeah.
It's very modern. There was a lot of super modern train cars that we rode on, too, that were like, talking to you almost,
Yeah.
which was kind of nice. But it's all color-coded. I'm not really good with directions. Usually I just follow Kathy. But this one, they make it so you can actually
really
get
easy.
around.
And I'm sure, New York, I used to understand theirs better when I went there more. So I hope to get onto it again, but I've struggled with it the last couple times we've gone there. It's just not as laid out easily for me to understand anyway.
Or we'll just be taking cabs.
Yeah, there's cabs.
So that's fine, too.
But listen, what we've learned, though, from staying at this particular RV park before is, we did the bus thing to get to the metro station. It works generally quite well during the week. The weekend schedules change. They run on the hour. The bus runs on the hour, and then the metro line changes as well. So they don't always line up. So sometimes you might get off. What happened to us a couple times is we'd be coming back, for example, from the city, from DC, and we'd take the metro, get off at the metro station to get to the bus, and we miss the bus, and it's not coming back for another hour.
So you sit there.
You're stuck there.
You're sitting
for
there.
an hour. And
Yeah.
it's, we've been there in the summer. It's 95 degrees, 120% humidity. So what we did this time with the car is they have park and rides.
Yeah.
And it's with 2 miles to either one way or the other, go to College Park or Greenbelt. And they have a park and ride, and it's only $5 to leave your car there. So that's what we did this time. We took the car, we GPS to the metro line.
We went to the
We
Greenbelt,
did
which has
Greenbelt.
its own exit
off the
off the 95.
the
I think it is.
95.
So it has its own exit. So you just get there, you park your car, you go on in and get your ticket, and it was
really
great.
You can even get your Metro card at the RV park at the store,
Right.
and then you can add to it. You can start off with, I don't know, it was $7
It's
or $8.
$8 you start with.
And really, you need about $8 per day round trip to get in and out. So you want to fill that up. What we forgot to, that reminds me when I said fill up. Okay, so the third
geez.
thing that we learned on this trip, let me go back a couple steps. What we should have done that we've learned, every trip we learn something, right?
Even as much as we've been doing this, you still learn something.
We still do stupid things.
Yeah, this wasn't stupid, but it wasn't smart.
It wasn't thinking ahead, and it was more in the moment thinking. When we were getting into the city the night before, we were getting a little low on gas. We were like, you know what? We're tired. Let's get to the RV park. We really needed to, because there's only we really needed to plan ahead more and make sure we had enough gas, thinking ahead for when we needed to leave. Because what happened after, and it's jumping a little bit around here, but you got to kind of plan ahead sometimes. We did not. I think we should have filled up the tank before we parked at the Cherry Hill Park, so that when we left the two days later, we were on pretty low gas, and it was getting a little scary finding a station we could get to.
We were about 50 miles outside of getting to Cherry Hill, and it was like the GPS said we were pulling in at 10. They closed their facility. The office closes at 10 p.m.
But someone could have checked us in.
Someone could have checked us in, and we knew that, but we didn't know how easy it would be, and we were like, well, if we can get there, we're just a couple minutes away. Stopping takes 25 minutes to fill the RV. We're like, I don't know, it's pushing it. Had I known and what we knew now, there's a nice person sitting, they put somebody in like a booth waiting for people that are checking in later. So there was no rush to check in like we did. So we should have really stopped and gotten gas.
I mean, it's not life or death, and we ended up getting gas as we were heading home on Saturday morning, but we probably should have thought ahead and filled up. So just a little note I just wanted to say before I forget this point is when you're getting into park, and this happened to us one time down in Disney too, it's so frustrating when you're trying to get going and get on the road, and you didn't fill up before you left, because typically we've been in like residential areas. It's hard to find the Flying J's, and we have about 45 feet of length with the add-on with the car and the tow and everything.
Really hard to maneuver.
So anyway, I just wanted to make that point, to make sure before you go park that you got enough gas so that when you go to leave, because eventually you have to go home, you have enough gas to get you well outside the city, because we were in very much city residential, heading towards Baltimore, and there's not any good RV gas stations.
No.
And it was getting pretty low, and we got lucky and we found something, but it really set us back a little bit, and we just said never again.
And I was so proud of us because we used the Flying J app. And we were able to find. Well, and we all the way down. We found them, and we had the RV only lane, and we went and we filled up with gas. We could have checked our tires. You could have dumped if you needed to. There's all these things you could do there.
Going back, it wasn't so easy.
No, there weren't any.
And when you have a tow dolly and trying to fill up gas,
it's hard.
And you can't do that at a regular station. So we made it work. I put a picture on there, two of us like squeezing in, and people were even helpful at the gas station to make it happen. Anyway, I digress with that, but it's a point I want to make. So we don't forget to do that again.
Never again.
Make sure you have enough gas coming and going, planning ahead.
Usually we don't let it get down less than a half a tank, and for some reason we were like, let's just make sure we can go.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's get there. We can do this. We'll get it when we get there.
So anyway, getting back to, we took the car and the next, we were going to be going into D.C., and we took the car to the Greenbelt station, left it there, got on. Again, Metro's so easy to get around. And we just, we've done D.C. before, so we wanted to do it really different this time. So we started off the day with, months ago I had gotten a hold of our local congressman, and we were able to get a tour plan, because you do have to, and I'll tell you, we also tried the Capitol tour, the Capitol building tour. We'd also tried for the White House tour, but because of demand, we weren't able to get in, which I was really disappointed, because I really wanted to see that.
At first, when they rejected us, we were like, well, what do we do?
What do we do? We're nice people. We don't have records or anything.
No, it's all good.
And they said it's just demand. But we had a really great guide at the Capitol building, and there's like the visitor center there. I mean, I went 26 years ago when you didn't have to go through it. Like you would go through metal detectors and then just walk around, but I never did a guided tour. And it took about an hour. There was a movie. Again, we learned so much.
And I like the fact that when you meet your guide, he hands you a headset.
Yeah, everybody had headsets.
Totally mic'd. You have a headset, so no matter how far away he was, he just speak normally, and everybody would hear him.
I always find the tours are only as good as the guides, and we had, do you remember his name?
I think it was Joseph.
He was just really funny.
Super nice, super
good.
He was
really engaging and funny, and he just brought everything to life. The only thing I would say that, maybe in another month or two, most of the Capitol building seems surrounded by scaffolding. It was starting to fall apart.
Yeah.
And so they've had to put in a lot of work to.
There's a lot of restoration.
Chunks were falling down, and I guess in corridors and what have you. So a lot of restoration going on, but you could see enough. Mm-hmm. And he gave us a lot of history, and especially for Mitchell. I mean, I think all the kids got something out of it. But Mitchell, who's going into global studies, I just was watching him just eat this stuff up. I mean, he was loving it. So
Yeah, no, I think just I'm just stuttering, but just watching his face, looking around, and
Taking it all
just
in.
absorbing. And he's kind of like he's the more animated of our guys, and yet he just was like quietly watching, and
he
I
just
think
was totally drawn in and
what do you tell
fascinated.
you? Like this is stuff he's gonna like. There's ways I'm gonna learn to teach my kids, or when he student teaches and stuff. Things that he was really fascinated about that I think just bringing it to life for kids.
Yeah, he really wanted to exactly that. What I think intrigued him was just how Joseph kind of brought it all to life and how he told the stories, and that's how I think he's going to be such a good teacher. But they really encouraged us to even there's the architecture, there's just to be in places where here's where Abraham Lincoln had his desk, when he came back and after he was president, and here's where who was it that died there? The president. I'm totally flaking.
I know. I'm totally at this point. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't remember.
This is.
I'm no help to you on this one. Mitchell would know.
Mitchell would know because he retains all this information.
But was it the president that had his inauguration and his wife told him, "Don't go.
Don't be outside because it's -7 and got pneumonia and died."
You could do this inside.
And I can't think of his name. Sorry.
Taft?
No, don't know. It's I don't know. It'll come to me later. Anyway, it just
Rutherford B. Hayes.
now you're just making stuff
I don't
up.
know. I saw the Hall of Presidents a couple years ago.
Yeah. So everything is so beautiful in there. The architecture, it really, and they've done such a nice job maintaining it. They really putting some effort in there to keep that thing standing.
And then we were able to go down into what they call the crypt, which is where they originally intended to bury George Washington.
Yeah.
But there was issues with that. His wife had agreed, and then she passed. The kids didn't want him to go, and eventually the governor of Virginia, they made a law saying that George Washington's remains shall always be in Virginia. So there's a crypt that they built in the bottom of the Capitol building that has nothing in it, but just amazingly beautiful. The architecture, the statues. We learned so much about like states having their own statues, and there's like one of the guidelines is that the person has to be deceased and has to have done something great. And some states have guys there that they take out. The other ones have guys that they're putting in, and you get to watch and learn all of this fascinating history that our country's had. And I was just really blown away by the Capitol tour.
William Henry Harrison.
Right.
I had to go find that out.
Very good.
And they also encourage us to go see your local senator. I mean, there's the Russell Building for Senate, and there's what's the building?
Remember.
There was another. We didn't end up going to the congressman, but we went over to our local senator's office, the junior senators, and they encouraged us to go over there. And it just felt so weird. You go through these detectors, and they check you or whatever, and then you can just go in and go talk to your senator. So we went in. Ours was Gillibrand, and we asked for you can go and ask for passes to go listen in the gallery at the Senate.
For the Senate, yeah.
And so everybody was really excited to go do that. I am so glad already the Capitol building blew our socks off.
Totally.
And then just going, I mean, maybe it's sort of boring to some people, but to go sit in the Senate gallery and just listen to just daily proceedings of just different states going in, their senators saying their piece, and there's a lot of stuff talked about it, genetically altered, GE they're calling it now, genetically engineered foods, and someone else came in. They just each had issues that they were adding on to a bill, and it was just fascinating to all of us. We just sat there like, wow.
We were there for about a half an hour, I think. But the process,
you just come and go.
Were you surprised by the process as I was? It would
How nobody's there listening.
Nobody's there. So you're surprised. Like if you
walk
watch C-SPAN.
Yeah, you think that there'd be a full room and everybody's working, and you walk in, nobody's there.
No.
Except, the president of the Senate and a couple people taking notes as stenographers. And the senator would come in, they would speak, they would leave. And I'm like, you always think there's someone talking to each other, and they're not.
No, it's crazy.
I'm hoping they read the notes later.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great for the kids to be able to see that.
just the way that the process works was totally not what we thought it was. I was shocked.
But it's so worth going and seeing. We would have, and then I was sort of mad I didn't go to our congressman, and there just wasn't enough time,
No.
and then to go see, what
would've
was
seen how
going.
the
Maybe we
Congress
would have
worked,
seen
too.
the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't want to get political, but it's still interesting, you know. Anyway, so for what it's worth, it's worth just going and seeing some of the process, and you don't have to stay long. You can go for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and you just quietly leave. And it was worth going to. And again, it
totally
was
worth
something
it.
I'd never done before.
No.
It's one thing to see it on C-SPAN, but to actually go and sit, it was pretty cool.
And I think that really shocked the kids, and they were super happy that we did that.
Yeah,
They wanted to.
yeah. And then this was the day we actually put on 24,000 steps.
Right.
I mean,
Oh, because we also went to a museum.
we did. We walked around. We went down the White House. You had to take the typical picture in front of the White House and near the National Christmas tree, which didn't look so good right now.
No, it's pretty hot.
It was pretty hot. And we just walked all over, and I really wanted us to get into the Holocaust Museum, which we were able to do. We went over there. I mean, that we weren't able to get the actual experience where you
Right.
reserve. And if you want to go to the Holocaust Museum, probably to get the fullest situation, the best opportunity is to book ahead of time, and actually you get given someone's identity, basically, and you go through a whole different experience where you actually go through the sort of their chronicled
Wow.
true story
Yeah.
of, this is what this person went through and how did they end up. So I think even without that, it was incredibly moving.
I was just going
very
to say,
moving.
I don't know if I could have done that because
moving.
what we had did, toured already was unbelievably heartbreaking and moving, and the experience was very emotional for us.
Yeah.
So to actually have gone through in someone's shoes, I don't know, that would have been tough.
Well, and
But
I think,
amazing. I think next time we should do it.
and everybody
you know?
that I told we were going to be going to do this, why do you want to go do that? Well, because it's part of our history.
Yep.
It's things that have continued. If you want to talk about Cambodia, Rwanda, it's stuff that still happens.
Yeah, it wasn't
And-
just the Holocaust.
No,
There was-
it really talked about genocide and
Genocide,
how
yeah.
do we get there,
And human rights
And again,
violations.
this kind of takes that whole thing we were talking in the last podcast about Disney and Beyond, and it really got us talking about just history and politics and what part it's all played, and what do we learn from that, and how do we move forward?
Yeah.
And again, I keep thinking of Mitchell with this, and he just was like, oh my gosh, how I could bring this to life, and try to teach our future kids. I loved seeing him take what he learned and just thinking about how he wants to apply it to the job that he'll have in the next few years. So it was just fascinating, and it also, a lot of it applied to things that are going on in the world even now.
Yeah.
And we like to say, we've moved past this, and that, race and all these religion, things don't divide us, and yet it still does.
Yeah.
And so it really led to so much conversation about how much have we changed, and what can we do to change, for what little piece that we all play, what part we play, could we, change moving forward. So it was just a moving, incredible experience.
And we need to know our history to know our future.
Yeah, so
That's a huge one.
it, to me, is just so much better than these kids learning it in a textbook, and that's what's so great about RVing is you can get out there and see it firsthand, and just really experience it. So second day we went back, we kind of crashed because we were all
Yeah, that
exhausted.
was
Second
it was
day we
emotional,
did
physically
physically the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was pretty hot. We had to stay hydrated.
It's like 97, I think.
Yeah,
It was-
went back. We were able to get stock up on groceries before
Yep.
this trip, so we were able to just cook some nice home cooked meals, save some money. Like really, the DC trip was so cheap because
it
we
wasn't
bought
bad.
groceries and everything was free. And the next day we went back in, same thing. We took the car and we did the metro and the park and ride thing, and we went to the Native American Indian Museum and the. What else did we do that day? We walked, I think, about
We went to this...
the Air and Space
Air and
Museum.
Space. I was going to say
which,
Space and Air.
you
but
know,
Air and
honestly,
Space.
it's really well done. It's just it was so busy, and we'd already actually been to the Kennedy Space Center, and I just didn't know how. I just couldn't compare to me to that.
Well, and I also think at the Air and Space Center, it's just
Museum.
so busy. Aerospace Museum.
It's so busy. You can't move.
No, there's just so many, and it's great. There's a lot of little kids and families, and a lot of people just looking group tours and kids from schools. And for us, the way we like to look at things, I don't think we were able to see much.
And it's a great, well done, everything museum. But just to compare it to what we were able to experience,
the American Indian Museum was amazing.
That was amazing. So again, that brought to light some of those issues we talk about with the genocide and all. Really.
But also,
what our nation's been built on, a lot of interesting history, for sure.
A lot of interesting history. They also went through, and it wasn't just about the American Indian. They also went down to the Maya and the Inca and the Pueblo. I mean, the Pueblos are American, but just looking through, and I thought that was very fascinating. Just the different cultures and the different peoples, and they did it from like the whatever treaty or whatever thing came from the Indian perspective, why they would do it, and then from the colonial perspective, why they would do it. And you're looking at it like fascinating. And early on, I think they were very much, a lot of people were very much looking out for each other. The natives.
And then something changed.
And then something radically changed.
And
then it just no longer,
Yeah, so again, an amazing...
But in the beginning, it was very much a symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. And again, it kept kind of hitting home some messages just socially, socioeconomically, and just some of the, the politics going on right now and things that are dividing our nation. And it just really, again, it really brought to light. And I'm hoping it really enlightened and educated our kids and us. I mean,
it did us,
there's always time to learn.
Yeah, you're never too old to learn.
No, so just being there, and especially in a political year, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate.
It was a great park.
Yeah, it was. Highly recommend Cherry Hill Park. They're always fantastic. I think that was our third trip there, and I'd go again in a couple of years because there's always something to learn. So we had a great time, and we got home safe.
Yep.
Another great one in the books, one of our best ever. A couple weeks from now, we're heading out to Maine and New York City. So keep in touch with us. We have lots more to do, lots more travel, more RV stuff to talk about. There's always something RV to talk about.
We can always talk about RV.
All day long.
Always talk about RV.
How do they get a hold of us, Neil?
You can get a hold of us. You can email us at rvglampingadventures@gmail.com. You can check us out on Facebook at RV Glamping Adventures. You can check us out on Twitter at RVGlampers. We also have an Instagram at RVGlampers. And we love hearing from you guys. Oh, we also have YouTube, RV Glamping Adventures. Check out some really cool videos out there. Check out Kathy's great blogs on rvglampingadventures.com.
And blogs. I put blogs there too.
Yeah.
You guys have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care.
Colton RV creates fantastic memories that will change your life forever. Have you dreamed of getting into glamping in your own RV? Colton RV can help you take that step into the future with a new or used RV. Talk with a Colton RV team member online, by phone, or in person and see hundreds of RVs, from tent trailers to motorhomes and everything in between. It's all about great selection, unequaled service, and low prices. Open late at 2 convenient locations, one in Tonawanda and one in Orchard Park, New York. Now is the time to see the future at Colton RV.